What if I told you the toughest war machines didn't wear combat boots? They wore chrome bumpers. Back in the day, cars weren't just for driving. They were built to survive. They carried your family through snowstorms, hauled heavy loads without blinking, and some even rolled straight into war zones. These weren't just vehicles. They were warriors on wheels. These cars were built for war, literally and in spirit. Some served on the battlefield. Others were raised tough on the streets, but every one of them earned a reputation for being nearly indestructible. In this video, we're counting down 10 old-school legends that didn't just last, they refused to die. If you remember what it felt like to trust a car with your life, this one's for you. Number 10, 1980s Chevy Suburban. Built like a fortress, driven like a legacy. Built for war wasn't just something people said. It was how this machine was built. Before SUVs turned into luxury rides with touchscreens and parking sensors, the 1980s Chevy Suburban was the real deal. Big, boxy, and built to outlast the roughest roads and toughest jobs. It wasn't made to impress, it was made to perform. Back then, every neighborhood had one. Usually with a dog in the back, some rust on the tailgate, and stories soaked deep into the vinyl seats. You didn't just own a Suburban, you lived with it. One day it was pulling a camper across state lines. The next it was hauling lumber, kids, tools, whatever life threw at it. And under the hood, you had brute strength. The 350 and 454 V8s weren't designed for speed. They were made to endure. Freezing mornings, heavy trailers, terrible gas. None of it fazed the Suburban. That's why military, police, and rescue teams counted on it. Because when everything else quit, this beast kept going. But toughness was just part of the story. What really mattered was trust. You knew it would start, you knew it would haul, you knew it would get you home. That kind of bond doesn't come from fancy features, it comes from grit. For a lot of us, it was Dad's truck, or Grandpa's. Maybe the one you always dreamed of driving. Seeing one today is like spotting a steel dinosaur. Rugged, worn, but still ready to roll. Because these cars were built for war, not just on battlefields, but in real life. Through snow, heat, years of hard use, they didn't give up. And deep down, you still want one parked in your driveway. Number 9, 1966, Ford Bronco, the blue-collar legend that refused to break. Before the Bronco became a collector's trophy or a luxury badge with leather seats, the original 1966 version had one job: survive. No fancy trim, no power windows, just steel, sweat, and purpose. Ford built the first Bronco to take on the Jeep CJ and to go where roads didn't, and it delivered. This thing didn't ask for power steering or creature comforts. It just showed up and clawed its way through mud, snow, rivers, and rocks without flinching. Sure, the ride was stiff, the cabin was small, and the comfort, almost none. But what it gave you was something no touchscreen ever could. Reliability you could bet your life on. Its inline-six and small block V8s were simple, tough, and nearly impossible to kill. Ranchers trusted them, mechanics respected them, and off-roaders swore by them. The '66 Bronco didn't just get you there, it made sure you got back. It rattled like a toolbox on gravel roads and screamed on the highway, but it never left you behind. It wasn't just a truck. It was your trail partner. If you were around in the late 60s or early 70s, you probably saw these Broncos parked in muddy yards, packed with camping gear, or caked in dust after a weekend in the wild. It was the ride of the man who fixed his own fences, hunted his own dinner, and didn't back down when the weather got ugly. Back then, owning a Bronco wasn't about trends. It was a quiet way of saying, I can handle whatever comes next. Today, the '66 Bronco stands as more than a collector's piece. It's a steel reminder of a harder, better era. One look at its upright windshield and stubby body, and you don't just see a classic, you hear the call of the backcountry, because these cars were built for war, not with weapons, but with willpower, with dirt under the tires, snow on the hood, and a mission to never quit. You don't just restore one, you resurrect a way of life. Number 8, Toyota Land Cruiser FJ40, the legend that refused to die. You don't earn a global reputation for toughness by accident. The Toyota Land Cruiser FJ40 didn't become a legend because it was flashy. It became a legend because it never gave up. From the deserts of Africa to the jungles of South America, from remote war zones to the peaks of rugged mountain trails, if there was one vehicle still running after everything else had broken down, it was the FJ40. Born in the early 1960s, the FJ40 was Toyota's way of saying, we can build something unbreakable. Designed as a rival to the Jeep CJ, it didn't just match American toughness, it often outlasted it. With its bulletproof inline-six, rock-solid steel body, and drivetrain built to laugh at terrain most trucks feared, the FJ40 was no frills, no excuses, and no weakness. It was built with a simple mission: go anywhere, survive anything. For many men who grew up with dirt under their fingernails, the FJ40 wasn't just a vehicle, it was a chapter of life. Some remember bouncing in the back as kids, grabbing roll bars while dad clawed up rocky hillsides or powered through fresh snow. Others remember foreign tours, seeing these machines carrying soldiers, medics, and aid workers through chaos, where only the FJ40 could be trusted to make it out. A few lucky ones, they still have one sitting in the garage. Paint faded, tires flat, but the heart still beating, just waiting to roar again. What made the FJ40 special wasn't just its durability, it was its honesty. No power seats, no GPS, no nonsense. Just gears, levers, and cold steel ready to follow you into the unknown. It didn't matter who you were or where you came from. If you had the guts to push forward, this machine would walk with you. These cars were built for war, not always the kind with bullets, but the kind that tested your will. Steep climbs, washed-out roads, blistering heat, freezing mud. Today, when you see an FJ40 still rumbling down the road or parked proudly at a meet, you stop and stare. It's like spotting a lion in the wild, strong, rare, and commanding respect. It didn't just survive time, it outlasted everything. Number 7. Volkswagen Type 2. T2 Bus, the unbreakable spirit of the open road. Funny how something so soft-looking, so slow, so peaceful, could turn out to be one of the toughest, most dependable machines ever to roam the earth. The Volkswagen Type 2, better known as the VW bus, wasn't built for war, but life sure tested it like one. From muddy fields at Woodstock to remote war-torn roads in forgotten corners of the world, this little van outlasted terrain, time, and every expectation. For the man who lived through the 1960s and 70s, the T2 bus wasn't just a ride, it was a passport to freedom. You didn't drive it fast, you drove it far. Across states, across borders, sometimes across entire continents. Backpackers, surfers, young families, road warriors, all crammed into these rolling shoeboxes and disappeared into the horizon. No GPS, no luxury, just a flat four engine humming in the back, a wide windshield up front, and a spirit that said, "Let's go." And here's the wild part. Behind that peace and love vibe was a mechanical survivor. The T2 bus was shockingly durable. Its simplicity was its armor. No fussy electronics, no overcomplicated tech, just raw, honest engineering that could be fixed with a screwdriver, some wire, and a little road trip luck. In South America, Africa, and parts of Asia, they used these buses for everything: ambulances, delivery vans, school transports. Even today, you'll find a few still working, still moving, still refusing to quit. Maybe you remember your first road trip in one, or the one your buddy had, with the tie-dye curtains, window stickers, and that unforgettable engine that chugged like a lawnmower with heart. Or maybe it was your dream, the van you always spotted in a magazine or at the beach, quietly whispering, "Take the long way." These cars weren't built for battlefields, but somehow, they endured more human battles than most machines ever could. They didn't survive on horsepower, they survived on soul. The VW bus wasn't just a way to survive the road, it was a way to live it, to feel it. And maybe that's the kind of toughness the world needs again. Number 6, Mercedes-Benz W123, the indestructible gentleman. There's durable, and then there's the Mercedes-Benz W123, a car so reliable it redefined the meaning of longevity. While most luxury vehicles were built to shine under showroom lights, this one was built to shine after 300,000 miles of hard living. Quietly elegant, brutally over-engineered, and absolutely unkillable, the W123 wasn't just a car. It was a legacy on four wheels. You didn't buy a W123 to show off. You bought one because you understood the long game. You bought one because your father or grandfather drove a diesel Benz and told you what true quality felt like. That a car door should close with a satisfying thunk you feel in your chest. That reliability isn't a feature, it's a philosophy. And for the men who believed in that kind of world, the W123 was their silent oath. These cars were rolling vaults, heavy materials, tight tolerances, zero compromises. Under the hood, the OM617 diesel, a 5-cylinder warhorse so tough it became the engine of choice for taxi fleets from Germany to Ghana. In places where potholes outnumber people and mechanics use hand tools under palm trees, you'll still find W123s running today. Not as collectibles, but as daily survivors. Some have crossed 1 million kilometers without an engine rebuild. Not an exaggeration, a fact. But the real magic wasn't just under the hood. It was in the feeling, that clean, purposeful dashboard, The indestructible MB-Tex upholstery that outlasted generations. The wood trim that grew richer with age. Maybe you remember the scent, that subtle, leathery aroma, unique to old Benzes. Or the steering, heavy and honest, like a firm handshake from someone who doesn't waste words. Driving a W123 doesn't feel like revisiting the past. It feels like time never touched it. It didn't chase trends. It didn't ask for attention. It simply showed up day after day, decade after decade, and did its job with quiet excellence. These cars weren't flashy, but they were fearless. They didn't shout. They didn't need to. They were built for life's long road, and they never asked for directions. If durability had a dress code, the W123 wore a tailored suit. Number 5, Dodge Power Wagon, the military truck that conquered civilian life. If trucks had battle scars, the Dodge Power Wagon would wear them with pride, dents, rust, and all. Born in the muddy trenches of World War II, this wasn't just a truck. It was a warrior on wheels. Built for the front lines, but destined to conquer every back road, logging trail, and rocky hillside of civilian America. This wasn't a pickup truck. This was a rolling bunker, a vehicle that looked like it could drag a mountain behind it and not break a sweat. When the war ended and Dodge introduced it to the public in 1946, it didn't arrive quietly. It rolled into town like a battle-hardened soldier returning home, scarred, silent, and ready to work. Built for war wasn't just a marketing line. It was the Power Wagon's birth certificate. Massive steel fenders, bolt-on hinges, narrow cab, no frills, no fluff, just a flatbed that looked like it could carry a small tank and a face only a blacksmith could love. Under that squared-off hood sat a flathead inline-six engine, paired with a 4-speed manual and a 2-speed transfer case, geared low enough to pull stumps from the ground or climb hills that would leave other trucks crying for mercy. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't quiet. It didn't care. And that's exactly why men trusted it. From farms to fire lines, oil fields to backwoods logging camps, this was the truck that showed up when things got serious. You didn't pamper a Power Wagon. You loaded it, pushed it, punished it, and it came back for more. In the 70s and 80s, while other trucks were rusting in fields, Power Wagons were still working, loud, gritty, and unbothered. They didn't age, they just grew more defiant. If you were lucky enough to grow up around one, you remember the sound, that deep mechanical growl. You remember the gear shift that felt like moving a crowbar. And you remember how your dad, uncle, or grandpa looked driving it like nothing in the world could stop him. Today, finding a true Power Wagon in original shape is like discovering buried treasure. They're rare, they're raw, and they remind us what a real truck felt like before comfort took over courage. Driving one now, it's not easy. No power steering, no insulation, no apologies, but it gives you something modern trucks can't respect. You respect the machine respects the mission, and suddenly you feel like you could haul the world just like it did once upon a war. Number 4, Jeep CJ5. Built for war, loved for life. Before SUVs had leather seats, backup cameras, and wireless charging, there was the Jeep CJ5, a vehicle so raw, so unapologetically tough, it felt more like a sidekick than a machine. Born from battlefield DNA, the CJ5 didn't just look like it was built for war. It actually was. Its roots trace straight back to the Willys Jeep of World War II. When Jeep rolled out the CJ5 in 1954, they didn't reinvent the wheel. They just made it a little more versatile. But the heart, the soul, that remained the same. Simple. Durable, ready for anything. No power steering, no plush seats, no fancy badges. Just 4 wheels, a short wheelbase, and a go-anywhere spirit that made it a favorite for ranchers, soldiers, campers, and weekend warriors. You didn't drive the CJ5 because it was comfortable. You drove it because it could take you where comfort gave up. This thing didn't care if the trail was muddy, rocky, or halfway up a mountain. It climbed, it crawled, it conquered. Forest rangers trusted it. Farmers worked it. Kids fell in love with it on summer camping trips, bouncing around in the back seat with no doors and the wind in their face. You didn't listen to the radio. You listened to the engine hum and the tires chew through dirt. And that's the magic of the CJ5. It wasn't just a ride, it was an experience. Built for war wasn't just some nostalgic tagline. It was baked into the bolts, the boxy shape, the ground clearance, and the way you felt holding that thin steering wheel on a steep incline. You didn't just steer it, you worked with it. Every bump, every gear shift, every muddy trail reminded you this thing was made to survive. Even today, the CJ5 still lives, not just in museums or garages, but on trails in small towns and in the memories of the men who trusted it to carry them home. Whether it's rusted and rugged or perfectly restored, each one carries a legacy that modern SUVs can't replicate. Honesty, grit, and a mechanical promise that it won't let you down. Owning one now isn't just about nostalgia. It's about reconnecting with a time when machines were built with soul and adventure was earned, not advertised. So yeah, maybe it rattled, maybe it was loud, but if you ever sat in one, top off, sun on your face, engine rumbling underneath you, you already know you were driving something built to last and born to fight. Number 3. Chevy K5 Blazer, 1973-1991, America's square-body tank. If you grew up in the 70s or 80s, chances are you knew someone who drove a K5 Blazer, or maybe you were lucky enough to ride in one yourself. This wasn't some grocery getter or soft suburban SUV. This was a machine with fists, steel fists. The Chevy K5 Blazer was America's answer to the question, what if a truck went to the gym and never skipped leg day? Big, bold, and boxy. The K5 didn't try to be sleek. It stood tall and proud, like a linebacker in a world of yoga instructors. It had the kind of shape that made kids draw trucks with squares, and grown men nod in approval just hearing it idle. Under the hood, pure thunder. Whether you had the small block or the big block, this thing didn't whisper. It roared. V8 muscle, real frame-on-body construction, a removable roof for summer adventures, and the kind of torque that could pull stumps, boats, or broken-down buddies out of ditches without breaking a sweat. And off-road? Forget about it. Solid axles, locking hubs, low-range four-wheel drive. You didn't just drive into the woods. You charged in like you were claiming territory. For many, the K5 wasn't just a vehicle. It was a badge of freedom. The kind you earned with dirty boots, calloused hands, and a thirst for wild places. This rig could do it all: plow snow in winter, tow campers in summer, and be the life of the tailgate party in between. Hunting trips, fishing weekends, bonfire nights. The K5 was there for every memory that smelled like gasoline and campfire smoke. And let's talk about looks. That square body? Iconic. The wide stance, the chrome grille, the two-tone paint jobs, straight Americana on four wheels, the kind of rig that made people say, that's a real truck. And when you parked it, it didn't ask for attention. It commanded it. Today, spotting a clean K5 Blazer is like seeing an eagle in flight. Rare, powerful, and deeply American. Not because it's fancy, not because it's fast, but because it reminds you of a time when vehicles were built with purpose, when they were tools, companions, and trophies, all at once. For the men who drove them and the kids who grew up in the back seat, the K5 wasn't just transportation, it was a tank, a trail boss, a steel-framed memory maker. And in a world full of soft curves and smart tech, the K5 Blazer still stands as a proud, square-jawed reminder that real trucks never go out of style. Number 2, Volvo 240 Series, 1974-1993. The Swedish brick that wouldn't quit. Some cars were built to go fast. Some were built to turn heads. But the Volvo 240? It was built to last longer than your patience, your marriage, and maybe even your heart. For nearly 20 years, from 1974 to 1993, the Volvo 240 rolled out of Sweden like a brick of defiance, square, safe, and absolutely unkillable. While other automakers were chasing curves, the 240 stood firm. No frills, no nonsense, just engineering that quietly whispered, "Don't worry, I'll be here when everything else breaks." And it was. You didn't buy a 240 to impress your neighbors. You bought one because your dad did, or your science teacher did, or that calm, quiet guy down the block who never had car trouble, because he drove a Volvo. What made the 240 special wasn't some flashy horsepower figure or fancy trim. It was its silence in the face of chaos. Rear-wheel drive, an iron block engine you couldn't kill with a hammer, steel so thick it felt like it was borrowed from a tank. These cars weren't just safe, they were stubborn. The kind of stubborn that just kept going. 300,000 miles, just getting started. Rust. Eventually maybe, but only after decades of road salt and brutal winters. Engine trouble? Not if you changed the oil and showed it a little love now and then. But the magic of the 2040 wasn't just mechanical, it was emotional. You remember the seat heaters that actually worked, the giant steering wheel, that satisfyingly mechanical thunk when you shut the door, the dashboard that seemed like it was made to outlast civilization, or the way it hugged the road, not aggressively but confidently, like a calm old friend driving you through a storm. And maybe most of all, you remember how safe it made you feel. Not coddled, protected. Like the engineers in Sweden built it with real life in mind. Kids in the back seat, groceries in the trunk, and decades of Mondays ahead. For countless families, the 240 wasn't just a car. It was a member of the family. The one that helped you move into your first house, that got you to college in the snow, that waited patiently through long shifts and late nights, always ready to go again. Even when it finally died, and many never did, you didn't just junk it. You said goodbye, maybe even shed a tear. Because the Volvo 240 wasn't just transportation, it was trust on four wheels. Number 1, Toyota Hilux, the truck that simply refuses to die. If civilization ever crumbled and you had to choose one vehicle to escape the rubble in, you wouldn't pick a luxury SUV. You wouldn't pick a lifted show truck. You'd pick the Toyota Hilux, and you'd be right. Because this truck isn't just durable, it's unstoppable. We're not talking marketing hype here. We're talking real-life legend. Drown it, drop it, set it on fire, launch it off a building. It doesn't care. It'll still get you home. Don't believe it? Just ask the guys from Top Gear. They tried everything to kill a Hilux and failed. It kept starting, kept driving, like it was laughing at them. Born in the late 1960s and forged in the grit of the 70s and 80s, the Toyota Hilux wasn't built to impress. It was built to work, to endure, and to outlive you. It came with simple, bulletproof four-cylinder engines, gearboxes that felt like they were made of granite, and a suspension setup designed to eat potholes, mud, and misery for breakfast. Farmers trusted it. Construction crews swore by it. And in parts of the world where life is hard, the Hilux is still the truck of choice because it just won't quit. You'll find them in the mountains of Afghanistan, on the farms of Australia, in the back alleys of Latin America, and the deserts of Africa. No fancy electronics, no fragile luxury, just steel, sweat, and stubbornness. For the kind of man who values reliability over reputation, who believes a truck should earn its legacy, not inherit it, the Hilux is sacred. This was the truck that never complained, the one that always started, even after a brutal winter night. The one that took a beating year after year, hauling loads, crossing rivers, bouncing down trails that weren't even on the map, and never asked for a break. It was never the loudest, never the flashiest, but it was always there, and that's what made it a legend. In a world where trucks are increasingly wrapped in chrome and software, the Hilux reminds us what toughness used to mean. No gimmicks, no shortcuts, just a machine that was built to survive. And when it finally reaches the end, maybe after 400,000 miles of mud, concrete, and mountains, you don't junk it, you salute it. Because the Toyota Hilux isn't just a truck, it's the last truck standing. We live in a world where cars now apologize when you get too close to a lane. But these machines, they didn't apologize for anything. They were loud, heavy, mechanical monsters with steel in their veins and a purpose in their bones. They didn't beep or blink or nag you to pay attention. They demanded it. You felt every gear shift, every bump, every rumble under your feet, and you loved it. For those of us who still remember what it meant to drive something real, not a computer on wheels, but a raw, roaring, unapologetic machine, these cars aren't just transportation, they're time machines. They take us back to an era when reliability wasn't a feature, it was a birthright. So tell me this, which of these legends would you bring back to your garage today? Drop your favorite in the comments, and if this video sparked a memory, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes durability beats digital. Because next time, we're diving into the classic cars that were so ahead of their time, even the future had to catch up.